"Mom, arrange the marriage with the York family for the 18th of next month. I'll come back a day early, and we can proceed directly with the wedding the following day." Hearing that Natalie was finally willing to come back and get married, Mrs. Nash couldn't have been happier. "Good, good, good. Leave the wedding preparations to me. I remember you have a few good friends in Seaview City, especially young Ethan. Don't forget to invite them when you get married." Natalie lowered her eyes, thought for a few seconds, and smiled. "It's inconvenient for them. I've already asked." Mrs. Nash sighed briefly before hanging up the phone. As soon as Natalie turned around, she saw the man standing behind her. It was her boyfriend of 6 years, Ethan Lancaster. Ethan wore a smile and asked softly, "Who were you on the phone with? What's inconvenient?" Natalie was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, "With the wedding coming up, I contacted some old friends. After asking, they said they were busy with business and it wasn't convenient to come." Perhaps seeing the disappointment on Natalie's face, Ethan approached her, pulled her into his arms, and gently comforted her. "It's okay. If they can't come, they can't come. Our wedding doesn't need them as witnesses. Natty, don't worry. After we get married, I will definitely accompany you to see your parents and beg for their forgiveness." Natalie's eyes darkened, and she didn't speak. Ethan didn't notice the change and asked on his own, "By the way, Natty, are the flight tickets for your parents to return to the country booked?" "They're booked," Natalie said faintly. "That's good." A smile appeared on Ethan's face. Looking at Ethan's happy appearance, Natalie felt a wave of dazed detachment. The news that she and Ethan were getting married was known to everyone in Seaview City, except for her parents who lived abroad. In the eyes of outsiders, Ethan always appeared cold and unapproachable, keeping people 1,000 miles away. To gain his favor, countless female celebrities threw themselves at him, and business partners sent over innumerable women. But Ethan never gave them a second glance. He gave all his tenderness and favoritism to Natalie alone. Because from the very beginning, before the two were together, Natalie had said to Ethan, "I want unique favoritism and absolute, eternal loyalty. If you dare to betray me, I will disappear from your sight forever." At that time, Ethan made a solemn promise, so nervous he couldn't even speak clearly. "Natalie, I swear, I, Ethan Lancaster, will only love you in this life and I will only treat you well. If I violate this oath, may I be struck by lightning and die a horrible death." Ethan didn't get to say the last few words because Natalie raised her hand to cover his mouth. So, no one had ever doubted Ethan's love, including Natalie. Until one afternoon a week ago, Ethan used the excuse of company business to work overtime, saying he wouldn't be back for dinner. Natalie knew Ethan had a bad stomach, so she brought the dinner she had made to Ethan's company. Her car had just parked in the company's underground garage. She watched as that familiar car began to shake slowly. The two people in the car were exactly Ethan and his female secretary, Lydia Lawson. In an instant, Natalie's heart felt a dense, piercing pain, as if a knife were stuck in her heart, with cold wind blowing in as blood gushed out. Her mother and Ethan's mother were best friends who grew up together, and she and Ethan were typical childhood sweethearts. When she was in junior high school, Mr. and Mrs. Nash went abroad for company business, and the number of times they met Natalie each year could be counted on one hand. Although the Nash family was wealthy, without her parents by her side, Natalie always felt lonely and gradually fell into a state of withdrawal. This made her an outlier among her peers and a target for bullying. Consequently, Natalie was severely bullied. She endured it for 2 years. On her 15th birthday, she prepared to leave this world. It was Ethan who secretly came to celebrate her birthday, found her in the bathroom, and then rushed her to the hospital. After that, it was Ethan who stayed by her side to comfort her, protect her, accompany her through treatment, and use every means to make her happy. For this reason, both of them took a year off from school. Mr. and Mrs. Nash only came back to accompany her for a while before leaving again. Before leaving, they entrusted her to the care of Ethan and his mother. After starting high school, the two were inseparable. Everyone said she was Ethan's liege, and Ethan was her knight. In this moment, Natalie remembered how Ethan held her hand back then, comforting her over and over again, saying, "Natty, don't be afraid, I'm here." After graduating from high school, Ethan confessed his love to her. Natalie didn't agree immediately. She always felt that if even her own parents didn't love her, how could Ethan love her? It was Ethan's unremitting pursuit and selfless dedication that slowly moved her. They got together, and it has been 6 years now. In these 6 years, Ethan took meticulous care of her, and she gave him everything she had. But the person who loved her so much has now betrayed her. The thought of what Ethan and Lydia were doing in the car made her sick. She pushed Ethan away, rushed quickly to the bathroom, and vomited. Ethan quickly followed, patting her back in distress as he watched her state. "Natty, are you okay? Do you want to go to the hospital?" Natalie took a deep breath, suppressing the nausea in her stomach, and replied, "I'm fine. It's probably because I haven't rested well while preparing for the wedding, plus the heat makes me nauseous." Ethan helped Natalie back to the sofa to sit down, brought a glass of water, handed it to her, and said, "Natty, why don't you hand over the wedding matters to someone else? Seeing you like this breaks my heart." The 18th of next month, it was Ethan's wedding, and also her wedding. "Ethan, I've prepared a surprise for you. You'll know on the wedding day." "Really?" Ethan looked delighted and pulled her into his arms again. "Natty is so good. I love Natty the most." Love the most. Not only love, just as Natalie was thinking about pushing Ethan away, Ethan's phone rang. Ethan let go of her, took out his phone, and a flash of lust passed through his eyes. He glanced at Natalie and said, "Natty, it's a call from the company. I have to go to the office. I might be back very late. Don't wait for me, rest early." Natalie nodded, "Okay, go quickly." Ethan nodded heavily, turned, and left. Watching the man's disappearing back, Natalie restrained the smile on her face. "Ethan, be happier for now. I hope you'll be even happier when you see the surprise on the wedding day." Ethan didn't come back that night. The next day, after getting up, Natalie found that she had received an email from an unknown account just after 1:00 a.m. the previous night. The attached photos were intimate shots of Ethan and Lydia. Natalie knew that these photos were likely sent by Lydia to provoke her. It seemed she was an impatient mistress. It didn't matter. There would be plenty of screen time for her on the wedding day. She looked through them expressionlessly, then saved all the photos. She had important things to do today and couldn't waste time. After leaving the house, Natalie went to the wedding planning company first. After finding the person in charge, she took away various promotional materials to be played at the wedding. Facing the planner's questioning, Natalie just smiled slightly. "The materials need to be supplemented. I will send someone to give you the complete version on the wedding day. You just need to play it directly then." That. Natalie knew what the other party wanted to ask and said first, "Don't worry, you won't be shorted on money. You just need to be responsible for the wedding flow." Hearing this, the planner smiled. Less work for the same money, a worker's favorite. Natalie turned to leave, took a few steps, and stopped. "By the way, regarding wedding-related matters, you only need to contact me. If anyone else asks, just say you don't know." The planner was puzzled but nodded in agreement. After leaving, Natalie contacted the wedding ring designer. The other party hurried over and asked, "Miss Nash, hello. May I ask what you need from me?" Natalie greeted him with a smile, then got to the main topic. "I came to you today to ask how the ring design is going. What stage is it at?" The designer replied, "The design part is completed, and it is now being sent abroad for crafting. It will definitely be sent back before Miss Nash and Mr. Lancaster's wedding." Natalie gave a faint and said, "I remember that the initials of Ethan and me will be engraved on the ring, right?" "Yes, this was personally instructed by Mr. Lancaster." Natalie smiled and said, "Then please trouble yourself to change my initials to LLLL." The designer murmured it once and asked, "Is this name?" "It's the original name. I want his name to be with the person he truly loves." The designer looked moved after hearing this and nodded heavily. "Okay, I'll go back and change it now and send it for crafting as soon as I'm done." After bidding farewell to the designer, Natalie went to the bridal shop. Seeing it was Natalie, the store manager quickly welcomed her in. "Miss Nash, are you here to ask about the status of the wedding dress?" Before Natalie could answer, the wedding dress is still being custom-made. It will take about another half-month to be delivered. Natalie thought carefully about her and Lydia's figures. They were about the same height and build. The wedding dress she ordered now should fit Lydia as well. "I want to add a veil, preferably one that obscures the face completely." The store manager was stunned, then puzzled. "To be honest with you, that wedding dress isn't suitable for a heavy veil, and if you want to obscure the face completely, it might not look good." An obscuring veil would be almost like an ancient red head covering. People outside wouldn't be able to see the face inside at all, and Natalie wanted exactly that effect. It doesn't matter, I want that kind of veil. Let him experience the feeling of unveiling the bride. Hearing this, the manager instantly understood. Okay. I'll contact headquarters right now and have them expedite a veil. I guarantee Miss Nash will be the most beautiful bride that day. Natalie smiled and didn't say much more. By the time she finished everything, it was already 4 in the afternoon. Natalie let out a long sigh of relief. She only hoped that the surprise she prepared for Ethan would be to his liking. At this moment, her phone suddenly vibrated. Picking it up, she saw a message from Ethan. Natty, I booked a restaurant. Let's have dinner together tonight. Below was a restaurant location. Natalie slowly typed one word. Okay, immediately after, she received another email from that unknown account containing only a screenshot of a chat history. Lydia sent a photo of herself. In the photo, her chest was covered with ambiguous red marks, and she was wearing a set of transparent lace lingerie. Ethan, want it again? Lydia, just wanted to show you my new lingerie. Does it look good? Ethan, I'll die on top of you sooner or later. Lydia, then I'll wait for you tonight. A few minutes later, Ethan replied. Okay, and the time of his reply was exactly after he sent the message to Natalie. At 6 in the afternoon, Natalie went to the restaurant as agreed. When she arrived, Ethan was already there. After the two sat down, Ethan pushed a box in front of her. Natty, open it and take a look. Natalie nodded slightly, acknowledging him. Upon opening it, she found a blue sapphire necklace. Natty, do you like it? I remember you once said blue is your favorite color. When I saw this necklace earlier, I thought of you immediately. Ethan's face was full of smiles. Natalie had indeed said that. She liked blue, liked sweets, liked painting. Ethan remembered all her joys, angers, hobbies, birthdays, various anniversaries, holidays, and even her physiological cycles. But what puzzled Natalie was, how did Ethan manage to remember all the information related to her while cheating on her with another woman behind her back? Can a person's heart really hold two people at the same time? Seeing Natalie lost in thought, Ethan felt a bit nervous and asked tentatively, Natty, what's wrong? Don't you like it? Natalie snapped back to reality and tried hard to raise the corners of her mouth. No, I like it very much. It's just that you've been so busy lately. How did you find the time to buy jewelry for me? Natalie's casual greeting caused a flash of panic in Ethan's eyes, but he quickly calmed down again. With no emotion showing on his face, he cleverly changed the subject. He reached out to hold Natalie's hand resting on the table, guilt appearing in his eyes, his tone full of self-reproach. Natty, I'm sorry. There have been too many things at the company recently, and I haven't had much time to accompany you. Everything I did today is to apologize. I only ask that you don't be angry. Natalie withdrew her hand, then gently placed it on top of Ethan's hand, her face showing a bit more distress. I'm not angry. I feel sorry for you. You're already so tired, yet you still have to distract yourself and spend time for me. Before she could finish, Ethan interrupted her. Natty, I'm not tired. As long as you like it, as long as it makes you happy, I'm willing to do anything. After speaking, he looked into Natalie's eyes, his eyes filled with undissolvable tenderness and love. The meal did not go smoothly. Ethan's phone vibrated from time to time. Natalie knew who the messages were from and asked, feigning ignorance, Ethan, your phone keeps ringing. Why don't you check it? Ethan pretended to pick up the phone, unlocked it to take a look, and replied to a few messages before saying, It's nothing, just some company matters. I agreed to accompany you today, so I'll ignore them for now. Natalie nodded knowingly and didn't say anything more. After the meal, the two went to see a movie together. The movie was chosen at random, but whether by coincidence or some other reason, it was very similar to their story. The movie told the story of childhood sweethearts whose passion faded after many years of love. The male lead cheated secretly. Later, the female lead discovered it. The male lead denied it to the death while continuing to be entangled with the mistress on and off. Finally, the female lead ruthlessly broke up with him. After losing the female lead, the male lead was in agony and knelt to beg for forgiveness. But the female lead left decisively, running towards her own beautiful life alone, and later met someone who truly loved her. Natalie projected herself onto the female lead. Tears fell patter-patter. She cried for the female lead, and also for herself. While wiping Natalie's tears, Ethan comforted her. "Natty, don't cry. Movies are all fake, just a kind of performance art behavior. But I feel that art comes from life. There must be such people in real life." After calming her emotions, Natalie asked, "Ethan, if you were the male lead, would you regret it?" Ethan's body stiffened, and a trace of panic and guilt appeared on his face. "No," Ethan answered very firmly, "because I wouldn't cheat." Natalie chuckled lightly, lowering her eyes to hide the mockery and contempt within them. So this was Ethan's true face, a hypocritical, dirty, disgusting man. "Then, do you think the female lead was right to choose to leave the person who betrayed her in the end?" Ethan frowned slightly, seeming to struggle with the answer to this question. After a long while, he still nodded. "Of course, leaving someone who betrayed and hurt you is a very wise choice." Natalie smiled, smiling very happily. This was his answer, and also her choice. That night, Natalie lay in bed, relaxing her body and slowing her breathing. She didn't know how long passed before she heard the person lying next to her gently nudge her and whisper, "Natty?" After confirming she didn't respond, the person beside her let out a long sigh of relief. The next second, she heard rustling sounds next to her. It should be Ethan getting dressed. 2 minutes later, footsteps sounded in the room. Natalie slowly opened her eyes, got up, and walked to the window. She watched a familiar car turn on its headlights and slowly leave her line of sight. A bitter smile rose on the corner of her mouth. The heart she thought wouldn't hurt anymore throbbed with pain again. Natalie clutched her chest, her weak body slumping to the floor. She leaned against the window, gasping for breath like a dying fish. Tears slipped down involuntarily, smashing onto the cold floor drop by drop. After a while, Natalie's numb body gradually regained some strength. She struggled to prop herself up, steadied her swaying body, walked to the bedside, took a medicine bottle from the drawer of the nightstand, opened it, and poured out a pill. Then she put it directly into her mouth and swallowed it. Apart from Natalie herself, no one knew her depression had relapsed. The medicine she just took was paroxetine, which suppresses depression and also has a sleep aid effect. Since the day she discovered Ethan's affair, she had relapsed. After having insomnia for 3 consecutive days, she went to get the prescription and had been taking it until now. Only after taking the medicine did Natalie gradually fall into a deep sleep. The next day, after Natalie woke up, she realized that Lydia had sent her provocative photos again just after 1 a.m. last night. She still chose to ignore them and saved all the photos. Going downstairs, she found breakfast prepared on the table with a sticky note attached next to it. It read, "Natty, I went to the company. Remember to eat breakfast after getting up. If it's cold, remember to heat it up." Natalie sneered, tore off the sticky note, crumpled it into a ball, and threw it into the trash can, along with the breakfast prepared by Ethan. She made herself something to eat. After eating her fill, she called for a housekeeping service. Natalie had thought it through very clearly. Since she decided to leave, she had to leave thoroughly. Everything related to her, what could be taken away would be taken, what couldn't would be thrown away or destroyed. This place would be Ethan and Lydia's marital home in the future. She wouldn't let her things stay here to be defiled, or for them to find them an eyesore. Natalie directed the workers, watching them busy packing things, and it seemed she was also repairing the scars in her heart. Natalie looked around, then lifted her foot and walked towards her study. She had rarely entered her study since resigning and staying home, but inside were many things related to her and Ethan. Natalie walked to a cabinet. Opening it, she saw various small gifts, several photo albums, and some letters displayed. The small gifts were all given by Ethan, especially during the years she was sick. Ethan gave many weird and quirky little gadgets to make her happy. Later, when they were together, she treasured these little gadgets here. There were 7 photo albums in total. She flipped through them briefly. They were all photos of her and Ethan from childhood to adulthood, all the group photos over so many years. In the photos, the two went from childish teenagers, slowly growing up to become mature men and women. Every photo was a story they experienced together. Natalie looked through them one by one, and every memory associated with the photos surfaced one by one. Clearly 2 people who were so close and loved each other so much. How did they get to this step today? There were also hundreds of letters, all love letters written to her by Ethan. She remembered a sentence Ethan once told her. The words penned by a lover are the most romantic language in the world. This was what Ethan said when he gave her the first love letter, and she remembered it until now. But romance ultimately loses to reality. She herself was the best proof. These things ultimately had to be returned to him. When Ethan came back in the evening, he saw that many things in the house were missing. Ethan asked in confusion, "Natty, why do I feel like a lot of things are missing from the house?" Natalie nodded. "Yes, we are getting married soon, so we definitely have to buy new things. I threw away the old stuff from before." Hearing this, Ethan nodded heavily. "Right, for our wedding, we definitely want brand new and the best things. You've worked hard these past few days, Natty. After the wedding is over, we'll go on our honeymoon. I'll take Natty to relax properly then." Natalie didn't answer and continued with the movements in her hands. Noticing what Natalie was holding, Ethan walked over quickly. He looked down and saw that the box was full of things he had once given to Natalie. "Natty, why are you packing these away?" Natalie replied, "I want to take advantage of the time these few days to find someone to simply redecorate this place. Starting tomorrow, let's go live at the family estate. It'll be good to accompany your parents." Natalie knew clearly that the mistake Ethan made had nothing to do with his parents. Even if she wanted to leave, she wanted to say a proper goodbye to Ethan's parents before leaving. Ethan didn't suspect anything either. He raised his hand to pat her head and smiled dotingly. Okay, that night, Ethan was the same as before, quietly leaving in the middle of the night. During the few days the couple stayed at the Lancaster estate, Ethan came back punctually every day. But only the photos in the emails Natalie received daily told her that Ethan still carved out time every day to hook up with Lydia. The backgrounds of the photos were diverse: hotels, offices, restrooms, stairwells, and gardens. Natalie's illness relapsed. Coupled with anxiety and lack of sleep, her complexion became worse and worse over the past 2 days. Eleanor Lancaster took everything into her eyes. Holding Natalie's hand, she said with distress, "Natty, are you feeling unwell? Look at how poor your complexion is. Why don't you go to the hospital for a checkup?" Natalie didn't want to go to the hospital and just answered perfunctorily, "I'm fine. I just haven't slept well. I'll be fine after a good rest." Just as she stood up, she heard the sound of a message notification on her phone. Picking it up to look, after opening the new email, Natalie felt the blood in her whole body turn cold inch by inch. The picture on the phone was clearly a pregnancy test with 2 bars. This meant Lydia was pregnant. A surge of bitterness welled up in Natalie's heart. Except for Ethan, no one knew that she also liked children very much. Although Natalie's parents were alive, her relationship with them wasn't deep. Growing up in such an environment made her desperately want a family of her own. She had fantasized that if she had a child, she would definitely give all her love to her child and would absolutely not let her child experience her grief. Natalie gasped for breath. After saving the image and turning off the screen, she took just one step before her vision went black, and she fainted completely. In the last second before her consciousness dissipated, she heard the nervous shouts of the people around her, all calling her name. In her dim consciousness, she remembered those unbearable memories from the past. Countless people surrounded her, pointing at her and laughing. "She's Natalie Nash. I heard she's a wild child with no mom or dad. An unwanted orphan, how pitiful. She looks okay, wonder what she feels like to play with." The malice of youth carried no purpose, only self-gratification. But Natalie remembered those words clearly. It was Ethan who saved her, pulled her out of the mire, said he loved her and would stay with her forever. But the person who loved her so much stabbed her in the back. When Natalie woke up again, it was already dark. Ethan sat by the hospital bed, holding her hand tightly with both hands, staring at her with red eyes. Seeing her wake up, he shouted with a face full of joy, "Natty, you're awake. How do you feel? Is there anywhere still uncomfortable?" Natalie shook her head slightly to indicate she was fine. Ethan choked up and said, "You scared me to death. When Mom called me saying you fainted, I felt like the sky had collapsed. After the doctor checked, he said your body is weak and anemic, and you fainted from being too overworked. Natty, I know you want to give yourself a perfect wedding, so you pushed yourself so hard, but compared to these tedious things, your health is more important." She looked at Ethan, meeting his eyes. The distress and nervousness in his eyes didn't seem fake. They say the eyes are the windows to the soul. She had looked into these eyes countless times. She could see his love for her in Ethan's eyes. But why could he love her, yet go to bed with another woman behind her back? Are all men like this, giving love and sex to different people respectively? Natalie's heart was full of doubts. She couldn't understand it after thinking hard, so she simply gave up on the question. I know, Natalie said weakly. Pausing, she added, I want some water and I'm a little hungry. Ethan quickly got up again, fed Natalie water and ordered food. After eating and drinking her fill, Natalie closed her eyes again, not looking at Ethan anymore. Ethan felt that Natalie's attitude towards him was different from before, but he couldn't pinpoint the specific change. When Natalie woke up the next day, she found no one in the ward. She called Ethan, but the phone went unanswered. Natalie got out of bed, walked around the ward, and stood in front of the window. Looking down, she happened to see Ethan and Lydia standing in the garden downstairs. Although their location was very hidden from the ground level, from the bird's eye view upstairs, it was truly visible at a glance. The two leaned together. Lydia wrapped her arms around Ethan's waist and buried her head in Ethan's shoulder. Ethan held a thin sheet of paper tightly in his hand, as if it weighed 1,000 pounds. Looking at the smile radiating on Lydia's face, Natalie instantly understood that this must be her diagnostic report from the checkup. After a long while, Ethan raised his hand and gently touched Lydia's stomach. That cautious movement was as if the person in front of him were a precious, fragile porcelain doll. Unknown what Lydia said to Ethan, Ethan put a happy smile on his face. The next second, Ethan pulled her into his arms and kissed her domineeringly. The kiss was lingering. When it ended, silver threads of saliva were drawn out. After chatting for a few more sentences, the two left hand in hand. A few minutes later, Ethan pushed the door open and entered. But what Natalie didn't expect was that Lydia came too. Before she could speak, Lydia explained first, Hello, Mrs. Lancaster-to-be. I am Mr. Lancaster's secretary. My name is Lydia Lawson. Natalie nodded with a smile and said indifferently, Hello, why is Secretary Lawson here? Is there something important at the company? No, I came for a physical checkup and discovered I'm pregnant. I happened to meet Mr. Lancaster at the hospital entrance, so we came up together to see you, ma'am. As Lydia spoke, she subconsciously glanced at Ethan and raised her hand to touch her stomach. Her actions seemed designed to tell Natalie that she was carrying Ethan's child. Hearing this, a flash of panic passed through Ethan's eyes. He turned his head and glared viciously at Lydia. Then he turned back to carefully observe Natalie's reaction. Only after confirming Natalie hadn't discovered anything did he breathe a sigh of relief. Natalie smiled and said, Then congratulations to Secretary Lawson. Pregnancy is very hard work. You still have to prioritize your health. After speaking, she looked at Ethan again. Since Secretary Lawson is pregnant, you should take care of her more in the future. If it really doesn't work out, let Secretary Lawson take a leave of absence to rest. Don't overwork her. Ethan forced out a bitter smile and nodded heavily with an hem. Natalie took the reactions of both of them into her eyes and couldn't help wanting to laugh. Based on the content of the photos and chat records Lydia discovered before, anyone who saw them would know how Ethan overworked Lydia in bed. Now she told Ethan not to overwork the other party, and he still had to nod in agreement. Hearing this, Lydia's face looked ugly. She knew these words were deliberately said by Natalie for her to hear, but since Ethan was still there, she had to endure it. Ethan also vaguely sensed the disharmonious atmosphere between the two and quickly spoke. Secretary Lawson, you go back first. If you want to ask for leave from the company, just go directly to the head assistant. Lydia nodded in response, then looked at Natalie. Then, ma'am, you rest well first. I'll go back now. Natalie nodded. Okay, after the person left, Natalie spoke again. Ethan, I feel fine now. Help me handle the discharge procedures. Ethan nodded in agreement and turned out of the ward. A few minutes later, her phone beeped. Picking it up, she found a friend request on WeChat. Although Natalie knew clearly this was Lydia, she still clicked accept. The next second, Lydia's message arrived, directly stating her relationship with Ethan. Natalie, did you know? Read emails cannot be withdrawn. Coincidentally, the emails I sent all failed to withdraw, so I know you saw everything. I think you should understand that the person Ethan loves now is me, and I'm pregnant with Ethan's child. If you are sensible, leave voluntarily to avoid being kicked out by Ethan in the end. The only one embarrassed will be you. I know you were bullied in school before. Although you are very pitiful, this is not a reason for you to occupy Ethan forever. Ethan has said more than once that he hates you, saying you lie in bed like a cold fish, with no passion at all. He also said that if he weren't afraid you wouldn't be able to take it and would commit suicide if he suddenly mentioned leaving, he would have broken up with you long ago. So be sensible and leave on your own. After a while, she sent another picture. It was exactly the diagnostic report from her prenatal check-up just now, with the time clearly written on it, 4 weeks pregnant. 4 weeks at least a month. That meant the two had hooked up before Natalie accidentally stumbled upon their car sex. Natalie looked at the message on the screen, and tears fell involuntarily. It turned out her past fragility and embarrassment were bargaining chips for Ethan to win a beauty's smile. She once thought Ethan was her salvation. Unexpectedly, all her experiences eventually turned into a sharp knife in Ethan's hand, stabbed fiercely into her heart. After being discharged, Ethan and Natalie returned to the Lancaster estate. As soon as they entered the door, Mrs. Lancaster hurried up, holding Natalie's hand and looking at her for a long time. "How is your health?" "Are you better?" Natalie nodded. "Don't worry, my body is fine, otherwise I wouldn't have been discharged." In the evening, Mrs. Lancaster had the kitchen prepare many nourishing dishes. Looking at Mrs. Lancaster, Natalie had a few more smiles on her face, and a warm current passed through her heart. But this emotion didn't last long. That night, when Natalie was groggy and about to fall asleep, she felt the person lying next to her quietly get up and get out of bed. Natalie squinted slightly and saw that Ethan was wearing pajamas when he left. She was puzzled. If Ethan was going to see Lydia, would he go out wearing this? Thinking of this, Natalie got out of bed and followed him out. Watching Ethan enter Arthur and Alina Lancaster's bedroom, Natalie subconsciously followed. Near the door, she heard Arthur Lancaster's voice. "Ethan Lancaster, I'm asking you now, what exactly are you thinking? Our Lancaster family has always been loyal to our partners from beginning to end. How did you create such a mess here? Didn't you say you love Natalie? Didn't you say it has to be her? Then what is this mess you've made now? What is going on with the child? Most importantly, have you thought about what Natalie would do if she knew about these things you did? She loves you so much she'd tear her heart out for you, and this is how you treat her." Slap after speaking, Arthur Lancaster slapped Ethan. Ethan replied in a muffled voice, "I will handle it well. Natalie will never know. I will never let anyone affect me, and Natty, wait." All the dialogue passed through the door and reached Natalie's ears word for word. Natalie felt as if a thunderbolt had shot from the top of her skull to the soles of her feet, and the strength in her whole body was sucked away in an instant. Leaning against the wall, she struggled to steady her body. At this moment, Natalie realized that Ethan's parents knew about everything Ethan had done. At the same time, they helped Ethan hide it from her. She felt she was truly laughable. She thought Ethan was hiding it from everyone, but unexpectedly, everyone was hiding it from her. Since that was the case, she had no attachment left for these people who deceived her. After trying hard to calm her emotions, Natalie turned and dragged her heavy steps back to the bedroom. The next day, Natalie woke up and found Ethan not at home. Mrs. Lancaster wore a fake smile and explained, "Ethan had an urgent matter at the company and went to work. He left early in the morning." Natalie gave a faint hem. If Lydia hadn't sent her a message cursing her, asking if she hit Ethan, and sending a photo, she wouldn't have known Ethan went to the company with a huge slap mark on his face. It seemed Arthur Lancaster had hit hard. That slap mark would take at least 2 days to fade. Sure enough, in the afternoon, news came from Ethan saying there were things at the company and he might not come back for a few days. Natalie replied considerately, "Okay, then work hard, remember to eat, and don't get too tired." After sending it, she paid no more attention. In the evening, Lydia sent another message. "Thank you so much. Because of your slap, Ethan doesn't want to go back now and just wants to stay by my side to accompany me and the child. By the way, let me show you the names Ethan chose for our child. We don't know if it's a boy or girl yet. He thought of 3 for each gender. Which one do you think is good?" Below the message was a picture. In the picture, the handwriting on the paper was vigorous and powerful, unrestrained and elegant. Natalie recognized at a glance that this was Ethan's handwriting. Liang Xingyu, Liang Yanzhu, Liang Yuch, Liang Jinan, Liang Jingyi, Liang Sui. Natalie zoomed in to look, carefully reading every name on it. They were indeed very pleasant to hear. She remembered her past fantasies, imagining having a happy and complete family, giving birth to her own children. She had discussed children's names with Ethan. At that time, Ethan said, "Don't worry, I've already thought of the children's names." And at that time, she asked casually, and the few names Ethan answered smoothly were all on the list. Now it seemed Ethan was really looking forward to the birth of this child. As Natalie watched, tears involuntarily dropped onto the phone screen. She sniffled, tried hard to suppress her emotions, and completely buried her 6 years of feelings and her former lover in the past. For the next few days, Natalie stayed at the Lancaster estate. Except for receiving some harassing messages from Lydia every day, she acted completely like nothing was wrong. She packaged and organized all the information onto a USB drive, preparing to give them a huge surprise on the day of their wedding. The day before the wedding, Ethan finally came back. Natalie, however, left the Lancaster estate. Her reason was, the groom and bride cannot see each other the day before the wedding. After leaving the estate, Natalie went to find Sophie Summers, the friend she trusted most now. Looking at Sophie, Natalie told her everything. Sophie listened first with shock, then anger, and finally heartache. "Natty, are you really going to leave?" Natalie nodded. "Yes, I'm going back to get married." Sophie wanted to say something else but was interrupted by Natalie. "Don't worry, I know what you're worried about. I'm not the Natalie I used to be. I won't seek death over a trivial matter. If there's a chance in the future, I will still come back to see you." "Don't worry," Sophie nodded while crying and agreed heavily. That night, Natalie slept holding Sophie. The next day, at the airport entrance, Natalie hugged Sophie gently and instructed her patiently again, "I'll trouble you with the matter I told you about." Sophie shook her head. "It's fine, leave it to me. I will definitely deliver the surprise you prepared right in front of that scumbag Ethan." Natalie smiled and turned to leave amidst the broadcast announcement. The moment the plane took off, Natalie felt relieved as never before. She, Natalie Nash, was finally free Ethan Lancaster. "I hope you will like the surprise I prepared for you on the 18th, the wedding day." Ethan stood on the stage, wearing a white haute couture suit. A red rose was pinned to his chest, looking like a flame dancing in the snow against the white clothes. Ethan was already handsome, and dressed up today, he looked even better. A faint smile hung on his handsome and noble face. Before going on stage, he sent a message to Natalie. "Natty, have you arrived? Whenever I think of you standing in front of me in a wedding dress, I can't suppress the joy in my heart. After today, I can finally change my address and call you wife." After he sent the message, the other side replied almost instantly, "Okay, I also look forward to this wedding." The wedding march flowed slowly from the speakers in the auditorium, pulling Ethan's thoughts back. His gaze swept across the faces of everyone in the audience. They were the witnesses to the beginning of his and Natalie's happiness. Under everyone's expectant gaze, the door of the auditorium was pushed open, and the bride's figure appeared in everyone's sight. The bride wore a heavy veil, holding a bouquet, walking step by step towards Ethan on the stage. Under the witness of everyone, the two put wedding rings on each other. Promising to be loyal to each other and never leave each other regardless of birth, old age, sickness or death, poverty or wealth. Ethan looked at the hands clasped together and squeezed gently. The person in front of him trembled slightly. Looking at the woman in front of him who bowed her head slightly and looked shy, he said softly, "Natty, we are finally married. I said I will only love you in this life. We will be together forever." After speaking, he lifted the bride's veil in front of him, preparing to kiss her. But when he saw that the face under the veil was not Natalie, but Lydia Lawson, he froze on the spot. In an instant, a huge panic engulfed him. He took a sharp step back, blinked, and looked at the person in front of him again. It was still Lydia's face. "Why is it you? Where is Natty? Where did you take Natty?" The people off stage were also confused. They all knew they were attending Ethan and Natalie's wedding today. But the bride on stage was clearly not Natalie. Many people hadn't even seen Lydia before. Only a few colleagues from the company recognized her identity. Lydia was also at a loss but still said firmly, "Ethan, what are you saying? Today is our wedding." "You're talking nonsense. Today is clearly my wedding with Natty. Speak, where did you take Natty?" Ethan seemed possessed, shaking Lydia's arms violently with both hands. The immense force made Lydia feel like her shoulders were about to be crushed. Lydia's voice already carried a sobbing tone. "Ethan, what are you saying? Didn't you ask me to come to the wedding?" Ethan was stunned at first, then he heard the gasps of the crowd on stage. Following everyone's gaze, he found that what was playing on the big screen behind him was not his and Natalie's wedding photos, nor the various romantic videos he had meticulously prepared. Instead, it was face-swapped wedding photos of him and Lydia. Ethan instantly realized this was the surprise Natalie had mentioned she would give him at the wedding. He recalled briefly in his mind the first time Natalie told him she would give him a surprise at the wedding. It was last month, at least 20 days ago. So Natalie knew about him and Lydia back then. He understood. Natalie wanted to ruin this wedding she had arranged personally and had looked forward to for a long time. Ethan suddenly thought of something and turned to look at the seats for the bride's family. It was empty and deserted. So, Natalie had prepared everything. She hadn't even informed her parents about the news of her marriage. Just as Ethan wanted to turn and leave, he was grabbed by Lydia. "Ethan, calm down. Natalie clearly doesn't want to marry you. She ran away from the wedding. She doesn't love you anymore. Now, let's continue with the wedding. When we get through this difficulty together, we can talk about the rest, okay?" Run away from the wedding, these words smashed heavily onto Ethan's heart, smashing his heart to smithereens. He wanted to know, did his Natty really run away? Did his Natty really not want him anymore? Did his Natty really not love him anymore? No, he didn't believe it he was going to find Natalie. He knew Natalie must be angry with him. As long as he coaxed her properly, Natalie would definitely forgive him. Having made up his mind, Ethan tried to shake off Lydia and leave. But when his gaze touched the ring on Lydia's hand holding him, he instantly became violent. "Let go of me." He first broke free from Lydia's restraint violently, grabbing Lydia's wrist tightly with one hand, while the other hand violently tore at the ring worn on her ring finger. Lydia cried out in surprise. She only felt a burning pain in her hand, as if something had bitten her hand fiercely. Looking at the ring snatched from Lydia's hand, a look of joy appeared on Ethan's face. But when he saw the letters engraved on the inner ring, his face turned dark again. When designing their wedding rings back then, he emphasized to the designer several times that he wanted ELNN engraved on the inner ring. Why did it become ELLL? But now was not the time to find trouble with those idiots. The most important thing was to find Natalie first and beg for her forgiveness. Before Ethan could run off the stage, Arthur and a leaner Lancaster blocked his way. "Ethan, you can't go," Arthur scolded in a low voice. Mrs. Lancaster also chimed in, "Yes, Ethan, finish the wedding first. We'll talk about Natalie's matter later." Lydia also hurried up to block him, crying, "Ethan, you can't go. If you leave, how can I face people in the future?" Seeing Lydia, Ethan lost his rationality. "Tell me, did you do this? Where did you hide my Natty? Why are you here? Did you kidnap my Natty?" Lydia shook her head, crying, "No, how dare I do such a thing? Clearly, she ran away herself. What does it have to do with me?" Slap Ethan raised his hand and gave Lydia a harsh slap. A clear palm print instantly appeared on Lydia's originally fair face. Her body swayed. Fortunately, Mrs. Lancaster beside her helped her in time to steady her figure. At this moment, Lydia only felt a buzzing in her ears, and the scene in front of her became blurry. She shook her head to hear Ethan's cursing words clearly. "Bitch, what nonsense are you talking about? Natty loves me so much, how could she run away? You must have framed her. You wanted to usurp her position, so you hid her. I tell you, even if Natty doesn't come, even without Natty, her things are not something you can touch." After speaking, Ethan rushed up and tore the veil off Lydia's head. Lydia screamed. She felt as if a piece of her scalp had been torn off, and the pain made her vision go black. Before she could react, Ethan grabbed the wedding dress on her body and pulled hard. This wedding dress was indeed worthy of $1 million custom production. The quality was very good. So Ethan didn't tear it off. Instead, he dragged the wedding dress and flung Lydia out along with it. Lydia was flung directly onto the platform, her lower back hitting heavily on the edge of a round table. She fell to the ground, gasping for breath and crying out in pain while suddenly feeling a warm liquid flowing from somewhere below. The white wedding dress was immediately stained by dark red blood. Realizing something, she started screaming. "The baby, my baby, someone come quickly. Please save my baby, the farce happened too fast." The wedding scene was in chaos at this moment. Lydia was still looking for Ethan's figure, but she saw that Ethan had already stumbled out of the auditorium. The current Ethan had only one thought, which was to find Natalie and beg for her forgiveness. But when he hurried to the home where they used to live, he froze. The originally happy and warm home was empty at this moment. There was nothing. Ethan rushed into every room in the house to search, not even sparing the backyard garden. But still, there was no sign of Natalie. He stood in the empty living room, looked around, and realized that not only was Natalie gone, but everything related to Natalie was gone. Even the decorations in the house were gone. The whole house looked like a newly renovated property. He stood in the room and shouted, "Natty, Natty, come out, don't joke with me, okay? Today is our wedding." He said so with his mouth, but he understood in his heart. Natalie really disappeared. Natalie really didn't want him anymore. He called Natalie's name over and over again, from a gentle call at the beginning to a panicked roar, and finally to a feeble murmur. He was like a headless fly, running back and forth in the room. But apart from his voice, only the echo of his footsteps remained in the house. After an unknown amount of time, he suddenly heard a knock on the door. The hope that had been extinguished rose again, and Ethan's heart beat along with it. He rushed to the door, thinking Natalie had returned. Opening the door, he found a courier holding a box. Seeing Ethan in a formal suit but with tears on his face, the courier asked, "Hello, are you Mr. Lancaster?" Although Ethan was a bit baffled, he nodded. "Mr. Lancaster, hello, this is your package, please sign for it." His package? Ethan looked down at the large cardboard box in the courier's hand, wondering what was inside. The next second, he heard the courier say, "Oh, I remember now. This package seems to have been sent from here." Hearing this sentence, Ethan reacted instantly. Sent from here, it could only be Natalie. Ethan snatched the package, put it on the ground, and started tearing it open. He brutally tore open the cardboard box. When he saw clearly what was inside, he froze. Inside were all the various small gifts he had given to Natalie over the years, as well as the letters he wrote to her and the photo albums. He pulled out a letter at random, opened it, and found that the places in the letter related to Natalie's name had been blacked out. In other words, this letter was now completely an ownerless letter. If anyone's name replaced the blacked-out positions, it would be a coherent letter. Ethan disbelievingly opened several more letters and found that in the contents of the letters, all places where Natalie's name was written had been blacked out. He opened the photo album again, flipped through several pages in a row, and found that Natalie had cropped out the parts related to herself in all their group photos. All the photos were incomplete. Seeing this, Ethan's tears couldn't help flowing out again. He didn't know how much time Natalie spent completing these things. How great a determination did she hold to think of such a method, to completely have nothing to do with him. At this moment, Ethan was finally certain that Natalie really left him and would not return. Ethan knelt on the ground, crying his heart out. He clutched his chest, breathing heavily, his heart numb with pain. Suddenly, a phone ringtone interrupted his crying, sounding particularly abrupt and ear-piercing in the empty and quiet room. Ethan thought it was Natalie calling. He took out his phone tremblingly, and because he was too excited, he dropped it directly onto the ground. But when he saw the caller ID on the phone screen clearly, a wave of disappointment surged in his heart again. It wasn't Natalie's call, it was Arthur Lancaster's call. Ethan tried hard to calm his emotions. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and answered the phone. Immediately, Arthur's roar came from the phone. "Where did you go? Did you find Natalie? If not, come to the hospital immediately." Ethan replied with a hoarse voice, "No, Natty is gone." "I can't find Natty." The person on the other end of the phone was stunned first, then sighed. "Sigh, we all understand Natalie's temperament. No wonder she looked at you so strangely every time at the old estate a few days ago. It seems she already knew about you and Lydia. This scene at the wedding today should also be her doing. Since the person is gone, come back. Come to the hospital and wait first. Lydia is still in the emergency room." Ethan opened his mouth, wanting to say something but couldn't say a single word. Bitterness welled up in his heart. Thinking about it, Natalie indeed knew long ago, at least 20 days ago. With Natalie's temperament, to endure for so long for today's so-called surprise, it was hard on her. But on second thought, during this time, Ethan thought he hid the matter between him and Lydia very well. But looking back now, there were flaws everywhere, revealing strangeness everywhere. With Natalie's meticulous mind, how could she not discover it? It was him. It was because he relied on Natalie loving him, thinking Natalie's heart and eyes were full of him and wouldn't suspect him, that he dared to be so bold. It was also his stupidity. Clearly, during this time, Natalie's resistance to him increased a lot. Her concern for him was not as good as before, and she no longer asked about him not coming home for a long time. Aren't these all anomalies? Why didn't he notice? No, he noticed. But he didn't care because he spent more time and energy on Lydia. If he could spare a shred of energy and time to observe Natalie, would it not have reached this step today? He thought he hid it well, not knowing he had shown his tail long ago. He deserved it, but he wouldn't give up. He would definitely find Natalie and beg for her forgiveness. Even if they really had to separate in the end, he wanted to hear Natalie say it to him personally. Ethan called his assistants and asked them to send all manpower to find Natalie's whereabouts. After hanging up the phone, he called Natalie again and again. Every call tugged at his heartstrings. He held his breath and listened carefully to the beeping sound in the phone, afraid of missing the moment Natalie answered. But the result of every call was unanswered. Hope rose, then fell into despair. After calling back and forth an unknown number of times, Ethan finally broke down. He hugged the phone and shouted Natalie's name. "Natty, Natty, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Come back, okay? Talk to me, okay?" Suddenly, he remembered a sentence Natalie once said. "I want unique favoritism and absolute, eternal loyalty. If you dare to betray me, I will disappear from your sight forever." So after knowing about him and Lydia, Natalie really disappeared. No, impossible. He wouldn't allow it no matter what. He had to find Natalie. To separate, it wasn't that easy. Even if the King of Heaven came, he wouldn't agree to it. Thinking of this, he called Natalie several more times, but the result was still unanswered. He sent messages to Natalie, but the next second, a red exclamation mark popped up. His WeChat was deleted and blocked by Natalie. Ethan was hit by a wave of despair again. His hands clenched into fists tightly, his knuckles turning white from the force. He didn't know where Natalie could go after leaving here. In the country, the only person Natalie could rely on was him. Could it be that Natalie went abroad, went to find her parents? But logically speaking, today was his and Natalie's wedding. Natalie didn't even tell her parents about the wedding. Would she really go to find Mr. and Mrs. Nash? Ethan knew very well that in Natalie's heart, having parents was worse than having none. Previously, every time she met Mr. and Mrs. Nash, Natalie had an expression of unwillingness to engage, unwilling to say even 2 extra sentences. Mr. and Mrs. Nash also knew they owed Natalie. They wanted to compensate but didn't know how. The family of 3 had been stuck in an endless, strange loop. But if Natalie didn't go to find her parents, where could she go? He contacted several friends Natalie chatted with relatively well in the country, asking if they knew Natalie's whereabouts. But everyone's answer was surprisingly consistent, all in a very shocked tone, asking him back. "You're looking for Natalie? Isn't today your wedding? You are the groom, she is the bride. Even if you look for her at this time, you shouldn't look here. I haven't seen her for a long time." The answers of several people were more or less the same, all with this meaning. He really didn't know where to find Natalie. He only prayed that the assistant could find Natalie's whereabouts as soon as possible. Ethan waited for more than half an hour when the assistant's call came in. "CEO, we found that Miss Nash booked many flight tickets last month." "Where did she book tickets to?" Ethan pressed. The assistant said awkwardly, "Miss Nash booked tickets to 13 countries 23 days ago. She also booked 8 domestic tickets, and the times are all in the same batch. We have absolutely no idea where she went. Most importantly, I found that the surveillance footage of the airport and a road section near the airport during that same time period has been deleted. I asked the person in charge, and they said the other party used the Lancaster family's identity to persuade them." Ethan was stunned first, then smiled bitterly. It seemed his Natty had planned her escape route long ago. To avoid him, she even came up with such a trick. But even so, he still had to find her. Suddenly, he thought of something and pressed, "Did she book a ticket to the US?" The US, where Natalie's parents were. The assistant replied, no. The dozen tickets abroad are all to some remote tourist countries. Sadness surged in Ethan's heart again. It seemed his behavior really hurt Natty, and hurt deeply, so Natty chose to go abroad for travel to heal. Send people out. Domestic or foreign, use all efforts, spare no cost to find Natty. The assistant spoke tentatively, but so many places, such a large range, it's really difficult to find. It will consume a huge amount of manpower and material resources. Didn't you hear what I said? At all costs, find Natty, Ethan roared. The assistant responded weakly and hung up the phone. Ethan lay on the floor, staring blankly at the ceiling. Unknown how long passed, footsteps came from the door. He got up abruptly, thinking Natalie had returned. When he saw clearly that the visitors were Arthur and Alina Lancaster, he was swept by despair again. His originally bright and expectant eyes completely lost their luster. He didn't know how many times today he had welcomed loss and despair after expectation and hope. He sat on the ground, head lowered, like a puppet without a soul. After entering the door, Arthur and Alina saw Ethan sitting motionless on the ground. The two sighed in unison, feeling both distressed and angry. Arthur spoke first. I told you long ago not to get involved with other women. You know Natalie's temper. She is a stubborn person who sticks to principles. Yet you insisted on messing around outside behind her back. Who are you putting on this show for now? She's not even here. Ethan opened his mouth, not knowing how to answer. Ethan, now that things have happened, don't be too anxious. Natty will definitely be found. Mrs. Lancaster finished speaking, paused, and added, it's just that based on my understanding of that child Natty, you too might, so you should make plans early. Although Mrs. Lancaster felt sorry for her own son, as a woman, she also watched Natalie grow up. When she learned about what Ethan did, she immediately talked to Ethan, telling him to break it off with Lydia quickly. But at that time, Ethan said okay with his mouth, but behind the scenes, he got together with that woman again. And she got pregnant, and now Natalie found out. She wanted to blame but didn't know what to say. Hearing Mrs. Lancaster's words, Ethan instantly raised his head. He looked at Mrs. Lancaster and said firmly, no, I will definitely find Natty. I will definitely beg for Natty's forgiveness. I can definitely coax her back. We can still be together. I will hold the wedding again. We promised each other to be together forever. As Ethan spoke, he brought a sobbing tone, as if he had suffered a great grievance. He regretted it. He now knew clearly that Natalie wouldn't forgive him. But at the same time, he kept telling himself in his heart that as long as he found Natalie, he would use every means to beg for Natalie's forgiveness. He could only brainwash himself constantly. By now, he almost believed that Natalie just went out to relax in a fit of anger and would definitely come back later and forgive him. Then they would be together smoothly, hold another wedding, and let everyone witness them becoming a true husband and wife. Looking at Ethan's appearance, Arthur couldn't help but mock. Ethan Lancaster, you think too highly of yourself. Our Lancaster family has been loyal to partners for generations. How did it change when it came to you? You thought you could balance the relationship between the three in the middle of Natalie and Lydia, but look at them, neither is a simple character. One is stubborn and principled, the other is greedy and wants to climb the ranks. Even 100 secrets have a leak. You take yourself too seriously. Ethan cried again, tears like a flood with opened gates, unable to stop no matter what. How could he not know? He thought he could hide the matter of Lydia very well. He also warned Lydia not to appear in front of Natalie. He always just played with Lydia and never moved his true heart. He felt the person he loved was Natalie. If his heart didn't change, nothing would happen. But now, the facts were in front of him. He was wrong, he was too stupid. The room fell into unprecedented silence for a while, so quiet Ethan could hear his own heartbeat. Suddenly, Arthur's phone rang. After he answered the phone, his face instantly became ugly. Not there, okay, I'll visit you later. Okay, I understand. After hanging up the phone, Arthur said weakly, give up, you can't find her. I talked to your Uncle Nash on the phone. Natalie is not with them either. The world is so big, finding her is tantamount to looking for a needle in a haystack. The matter at the wedding is now known to everyone. The child in Lydia's belly was saved, so just live with her in peace. As for Natalie, no, Ethan looked up and shouted, interrupting Arthur. I didn't marry her. I must find Natty. I can definitely find her. As for Lydia and the child in her belly, abort the child, then send her away, send her far away so she never comes back, otherwise Natty will be angry when she sees her. Saying that, he stood up and walked swayingly towards the door. But before walking a few steps, his vision went black and he fainted completely. Ethan woke up the next day. He found himself lying in a hospital bed. After sobering up completely, Ethan sat up abruptly, pulled out the needle from his hand, got out of bed, and prepared to leave. Arthur and Alina quickly went up to stop him, asking, "Where are you going?" Ethan replied in a low voice, "I'm going to find Natty. Move aside, don't block me." How could Arthur and Alina dare to let Ethan leave? With Ethan's current appearance, let alone going out to find someone, he might faint after taking 2 steps. Just as he walked to the door, he bumped into Lydia, who had just woken up and rushed over to see him still wearing a hospital gown. "Ethan, where are you going? Your body hasn't recovered yet. You need to rest well." As Lydia spoke, she wanted to step forward to support Ethan, but before she could touch the corner of Ethan's clothes, Ethan threw her off. "Get lost. Who allowed you to touch me?" Hearing this, Lydia's eyes instantly turned red. With tears in her eyes, she bit her lower lip lightly and said aggrievedly, "Ethan, don't be like this. I know Natalie's departure was a big blow to you, but you should know her. Since she chose to leave, she won't come back. And so many people saw us holding the wedding. I am your wife now, and I am still carrying your child. Don't be fierce to me, okay?" While Lydia said this, she didn't forget to raise her hand to gently stroke her stomach. Her movements were gentle, as if she really looked forward to the birth of the child. Hearing Lydia refer to herself using the word wife, the anger Ethan had suppressed surged up again. He raised his hand to strangle Lydia's neck, his eyes full of ferocity, his tone cold as winter ice. "I tell you, you'd better recognize your identity. You are just a plaything of mine. My wife can only be Natalie. If you dare to talk nonsense one more word, I will kill you." While Ethan spoke, the strength in his hands was constantly increasing. In just a few breaths, Lydia's originally pale face turned red due to congestion. She desperately slapped Ethan's arm with both hands, but the other party had no intention of letting go. She felt clearly that Ethan really wanted to kill her. The moment this thought rose from her heart, she cast a gaze for help towards Arthur and Alina in the ward. Arthur and Alina were also startled, really afraid Ethan would commit murder. They hurried forward to comfort and pull him. "Ethan, let go quickly. She's going to die," Mrs. Lancaster said anxiously. "Ethan Lancaster, you have to be clear. Even if you kill her, Natalie won't come back," Arthur said with a face full of anger. After struggling for a long time, Ethan let go of the hand on Lydia's neck. The moment he let go, Lydia's weak body slumped to the floor. Clutching her chest with both hands, she coughed while gasping for breath, tears and snot smeared all over her face. Ethan looked down, expressionlessly looking at the woman crying embarrassingly on the ground. He realized something belatedly. "Let me ask you, do you know where Natty went? Why was it you who came out in the wedding dress on the wedding day? Did you hide Natty?" Lydia quickly shook her head in panic. "No, I don't know. Early that morning, someone came to the door saying they would take me to the wedding according to your instructions. When I heard I could marry you, I didn't think much and went with them. Everything afterwards followed that person's process. Finally, I was pushed onto the stage to marry you." Ethan frowned tightly. He wanted to know which fearless guy impersonated him to find Lydia, to be bold enough to let Lydia replace Natalie to complete the wedding with him. Ethan spoke again. "Then do you remember if the person who came to find you was male or female, and what they looked like?" Lydia nodded quickly and answered, "I remember. It was a woman, very beautiful, very classy. She had a baby face and her voice was very pleasant. She was a bit taller than me." In just an instant, Ethan determined who the person Lydia spoke of was. He took out his phone and called his assistant. "Go check a friend of Natty's named Sophie Summers immediately. See if Natty met her before leaving, then bring her to see me." The assistant acknowledged and hung up the phone. Ethan turned back to the hospital bed. He stood in front of the window and began to think carefully about the key points of this matter. Calming down, Ethan quickly connected all the important nodes of the matter. If Natalie really left, Sophie must be an accomplice. At least, she saw Natalie before Natalie left. Thinking of this, he smiled bitterly. Looking down, Ethan froze. From Ethan's current perspective, he could clearly see the entire range of the garden downstairs. He suddenly remembered that when Natalie was hospitalized before, he accompanied Lydia to talk in the garden downstairs and kissed Lydia. When he returned to the ward later, he saw Natalie staring out the window. Ethan now had a terrible guess in his heart. Did Natalie that day see everything? Yes, Natalie saw it. Thinking back carefully now, Ethan could clearly feel Natalie's distant and cold attitude towards him at that time. Even when talking to him, the smile on her face was fake. As Ethan guessed, the assistant quickly sent a message saying that Natalie had indeed met Sophie before leaving. Half an hour later, Ethan looked at the girl sitting opposite him. He asked cautiously, "Sophie, do you know where Natty went?" Sophie looked the Ethan in front of her up and down. The originally handsome, noble, and lofty CEO Liang now looked pale, his hair messy, his eyes red, looking like a terminally ill patient. Hearing his question, Sophie couldn't help sneering. "Ethan, why aren't you dead yet? Can you tell me when you will die? I attended your wedding yesterday. Now I can't wait to attend your funeral. Can you satisfy my wish?" Ethan's breath hitched. After suppressing the surging emotions in his heart, he tried hard to force a smile. "Sophie, I know Natty went to you before she left. You are her best friend in Seaview City. You definitely know where she went, right?" Sophie smiled and nodded. "Yes, the first half is correct, but the second half is incorrect. She indeed came to find me before leaving, and I am indeed her best friend, but I really don't know where Natty went. Also, even if I really knew where she went, why should I tell you, a scumbag? Do you think you are still qualified to see her?" Sophie's two sentences made Ethan flush red. He knew Sophie was angry with him. She was venting for her best friend. This was what he should bear. Ethan waited for her to finish before speaking slowly. "Sophie, I know I did things that wronged Natty before. I know I was wrong, so please let me see Natty, okay? You can mention any condition. As long as you can say it, I can do it. Or I can give you money, as much as you want." Hearing this, Sophie's face instantly became very ugly. She looked at Ethan with an expression like looking at an idiot and sneered, "Ha ha ha, Ethan Lancaster, ah, Ethan Lancaster. It seems Natalie was right to leave you. Look at you. Apart from having some stinking money, what else do you have? Do you think you are amazing? Now that Natty has left, who are you putting on this aggrieved look for? Still want to set up a deeply affectionate persona? If you want to tell me you regret it, if you regret it, what were you doing earlier? Your current outcome is purely deserved." Ethan interrupted Sophie, his voice carrying a sob. "I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I beg you to tell me. I really can't live without Natty. I promise I will only love Natty alone in the future and only treat Natty well. I beg you." As Ethan spoke, he knelt down in front of Sophie with a thud, looking at Sophie with tearful eyes, just begging for an answer. Sophie was stunned first, then laughed. "Ha ha ha, Ethan, you are too ridiculous. I said, I don't know where Natty went. She indeed came to find me. She asked me to help her. That woman was indeed brought to the wedding scene by me, including the message on the wedding day, which I replied to using Natty's phone. But where Natty went, I really don't know. I only sent her to the airport." Sophie shrugged, looking breezy and indifferent. "Ethan, I'm not afraid of you. If you want to use means to force me to say something I absolutely don't know, then come at me." After speaking, Sophie took out a mobile phone from her bag, put it on the table, and left. Ethan stared blankly at Sophie's back until that figure completely disappeared. He wouldn't touch Sophie or the Summers family. She was the only person who had met Natalie before she left. Sophie was Natalie's friend. He wouldn't make a move on Natalie's friend. Ethan moved his gaze to the mobile phone on the table. He recognized at a glance that this was Natalie's phone. So Natalie really left long ago, and Sophie helped her complete the rest. Ethan picked up Natalie's phone. After turning it on, there were only 4 big words on the screensaver. Never see again. These 4 words deeply pierced Ethan. He wanted to know if Natalie really thought so. Never see again. Then those years they dated, those good times, didn't they matter anymore? Thinking carefully, it seemed to be true. He cheated. He went to bed with another woman behind Natalie's back. It was he who couldn't resist Lydia's temptation and betrayed Natalie first. If he could resist the outside temptation, how could Natalie leave? In the final analysis, it was still his fault, still what he deserved. Ethan slapped himself hard several times, but he didn't feel any pain at all. He only had endless remorse and pain now. After unlocking Natalie's phone, he slowly looked through it. When he saw the emails and messages Lydia sent to Natalie, anger instantly surged into his heart, burning his rationality to ashes, making his whole body boil with blood. In Natalie's phone album, there were bed photos of him and Lydia from various angles. There were naked ones of him sleeping holding Lydia, ones Lydia took alone afterwards, showing various ambiguous marks on her body. In addition to this, on Natalie's WeChat, Lydia sent many provocative words. There were screenshots of various flirtatious chats between him and Lydia. There were Lydia's various provocations, calling Natalie old, calling Natalie shameless, ungrateful, saying Natalie couldn't let go in bed. Especially when he saw the messages where Lydia mentioned Natalie being bullied and the names he gave the child. He couldn't wait to rush in front of Lydia again and strangle her to death. He couldn't imagine how heartbroken Natalie was when she saw these photos back then. Even after learning about his cheating, she endured without saying a word, smiling and acting with him to deal with it. His Natty suffered so much bitterness in a place he didn't know, bleeding so much in her heart. And this pain and heartache were all brought to Natalie by him. Ethan knelt on the ground, holding the phone and crying his heart out. Huge panic wrapped him tightly. He finally understood why Natalie left without a word. These photos and messages, let alone Natalie, even looking at them now, he couldn't bear the pain and despair brought by his own betrayal. Natty, I really know I was wrong. Natty, I beg you to come back, okay? While apologizing and begging for forgiveness to himself, Ethan slapped himself. Suddenly, the phone in his hand vibrated. He picked it up and saw it was a message from Lydia. You're quite sensible. Asked to leave, and you really left without saying a word. Since you left, don't come back again. Now I'm married to Ethan. I hope you can be conscious. Behind it was a photo of her lying in the Lancaster family's old estate, surrounded by people taking care of her. Seeing this scene, Ethan's originally grief-stricken mood was instantly replaced by anger. Ethan stood up, grabbed the car keys, rushed out of the hospital, drove straight to the Lancaster estate. In the Lancaster estate, Arthur, Alina, and Lydia looked happy seeing Ethan return. The three quickly got up. Seeing Ethan enter, they thought he had let go. Unexpectedly, Ethan walked quickly to Lydia and raised his hand to slap her several times. Bitch, how many times have I said Natty is my bottom line? Who allowed you to provoke Natty? Lydia was slapped to the ground. Covering half of her beaten face, she looked incredulously at the man standing in front of her. She was very panicked in her heart. She didn't know how Ethan knew, or how much he knew. But now she could only pretend to know nothing. Ethan, what are you saying? What did I do? I don't know anything. Ethan sneered. Even now, you're still pretending. If you hadn't sent those emails and messages to Natty, how would Natty know about our affairs? How would she leave? You don't simply think that without Natty, I would fall in love with you, do you? I said from the beginning, I only treat you as a plaything. How dare you spawn thoughts of replacing Natty? Since you are so ungrateful, I will send you to die. Hearing this, Lydia was instantly scared. She quickly knelt on the ground, hugged Ethan's thigh, and begged humbly, I'm sorry, Ethan, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I did it because I love you to give the child a complete family. For the sake of the child, please spare me, okay? Lydia raised her face, tears sliding from her eyes, crying pitifully and heartbreakingly. But now, Ethan felt sick seeing this face. Arthur and Alina also learned the whole picture from the dialogue between the two. They were shocked and angry. You sent the messages to Natty? Mrs. Lancaster grabbed Lydia's hair and questioned viciously, how can you be so vicious? Who gave you the guts to treat Natty like this? Seeing this situation, Lydia completely stopped pretending. She broke free from Mrs. Lancaster's restraint, stood up swayingly, looked at Ethan, and started laughing. Laughing loudly, laughing until tears came out. Ha ha ha, Ethan, don't you think it's childish for you to come to me now? I sent the photos, and I sent the messages, but so what? Why did I dare to send her those photos and messages? Isn't it all because of you? Hearing this, Ethan's body stiffened, and his handsome face instantly turned gloomy. If you really loved Natalie, why did you cheat? Why did you climb into my bed? Don't forget, the first time between us, you initiated it. If you hadn't given me the illusion, why would I pester you? I tell you, it was you who acted cheaply and seduced me first. That's why I pestered you relentlessly. The first time I sent a message to Natalie was on the 20th of last month, but Natalie knew about our affairs even earlier than that. Let me tell you, that time when we were playing in the company's underground parking lot, Natalie's car was parked not far away. I saw her, naturally she saw us too. The first time and that time in the parking lot were both initiated by you. I waited for more than a week. Seeing no reaction from her, I sent the message. Why do you think I dared to provoke her? It was your indulgence and her reaction of doing nothing that gave me confidence. Do you understand now? So the beginning of all mistakes is because of you, Ethan Lancaster. Lydia stressed the last 3 words heavily, seemingly emphasizing them deliberately. Ethan's face turned pale with Lydia's questioning sentence by sentence. He knew Lydia was right. The beginning of all these mistakes was because of him. But he didn't dare to admit it, nor could he admit it. Even if Natalie wasn't here and couldn't see the scene in front of her, he wouldn't admit his current mistake. Ethan, you say you love her, but every time I sent a message, didn't you come running immediately? I heard she fainted from exhaustion busy with the wedding, but at that time you were in my bed. Later, when she was hospitalized, we kissed downstairs in the hospital. Do you think she didn't know? I saw it all. And the child's name. You said you thought of it long ago. Did you think of it after I got pregnant, or did you take the names of your and Natalie's future children for me to choose? Ethan, tell me, did I force you to do these things? Shut up, you're not allowed to say it. Ethan broke down, couldn't help roaring, and raised his hand to slap Lydia again. He gasped heavily, staring viciously at the person fallen on the ground. Yes, you're right. I was stupid, I was cheap, I couldn't resist the temptation outside. But how much better are you? You followed me just for money. Want to marry into the Lancaster family through the child and become Mrs. Lancaster. Unfortunately, your wish is about to be shattered. After speaking, he turned to the door and shouted, "Someone come drag her to the hospital, abort the child, and then throw her on the street." Hearing this, Lydia instantly froze on the spot. She didn't expect Ethan to be so cruel, abandoning even the child. Watching the 2 bodyguards walking towards her, Lydia shouted, "Ethan, you can't treat me like this. I love you so much, did so much for you, and am pregnant with your child. You can't be so cruel." Lydia knew the value of this child clearly. Only with this child could she live a good life in the future. It absolutely could not be aborted now. She must find a way to save herself. Lydia knelt on the ground, kowtowing incessantly. "Ethan, don't be like this. Spare me and the child, okay? This child is also your child. You are his biological father. I beg you, spare me. I will leave immediately and never appear in front of you again, okay?" Although Arthur and Alina hated Lydia, they felt the child was innocent. "Ethan, why don't we wait for her to give birth to the child, then send her away?" Mrs. Lancaster couldn't bear to lose her hard-to-come by eldest grandson. Arthur also nodded in agreement. "Yes, keep the child then, just dispose of the person." As soon as the words "dispose of" came out, Lydia's eyes widened instantly and her whole body stiffened. She looked up at Arthur with horror. Meeting Arthur's cold gaze, she felt the blood in her whole body turn cold. She forgot that Arthur was an old fox who had been floating in the business world for decades. She naturally understood what he meant by dispose of. She didn't want to die, but she also wanted to keep this child. But now, she had no way out. She could only pray for Ethan to spare her and the child's life. As long as Ethan spoke, Arthur and Alina would definitely agree. Thinking of this, Lydia kowtowed to Ethan again. "Ethan, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I beg you to spare me and the child, okay? I will take the child far away and never appear in front of you and the Lancaster family in this life, okay?" Ethan didn't speak, but moved his gaze to his parents. He spoke slowly, his tone extremely cold. "No, the child cannot be kept. I will find Natty, beg her forgiveness, and bring her back. If Natty comes back and sees the existence of the child, she won't be able to bear it. Let alone her, anyone who sees the child will think of the past things. So, this child cannot stay. If you want a grandson, wait until I chase Natty back, and we give birth to our own child." Ethan's words were addressed to his parents and also to Lydia. Lydia understood that Ethan would absolutely not keep this child. All her plans were shattered at this moment. Suddenly, Lydia stood up and rushed violently towards the door. But before she could run 2 steps, she was caught by the bodyguards. She roared, let go of me, I am carrying the Lancaster family's child. If you dare to touch me, I won't let you go." Lydia at this moment was like a madman who had completely lost her reason. Ethan waved his hand, and the bodyguards dragged Lydia away. Just then, Lydia shouted crazily, "Ethan, don't you want to know why Natalie changed the bride at the wedding to me?" One sentence made Ethan freeze on the spot. Could it really be that Lydia and Natalie cooperated? Impossible, absolutely impossible. His Natty wouldn't do such a thing. "Stop!" The bodyguard stopped immediately, standing in place. The two held Lydia up, watching Ethan walk slowly towards them. "Speak, what else do you know?" "I tell you, all of this was Natalie's plan," Lydia said. "Natalie knew about your cheating long ago. The reason she personally handled this wedding was to make you lose face. Didn't you see her wedding photos? She found someone to swap her face in the photos with mine long ago. And the wedding dress, you went to choose it with her back then. You know clearly what the wedding dress originally looked like. Why did I have an extra heavy veil covering my face when I came out? Of course, she prepared it in advance. And that ring, the letters engraved inside were changed to my initials after she communicated with the designer. She planned to leave you, planned to make you lose face and embarrassed, make you lose her forever." Ethan looked at her, unable to believe what Lydia said. If everything was really as Lydia said, didn't it mean Natalie really intended never to see him again in her life? He understood Natalie. He knew Natalie wasn't someone who would do such nonsensical things just to vent her anger. He suddenly remembered what Natalie said before. She said, "I will make this wedding unforgettable for you forever." At first, he thought Natalie meant she prepared a surprise for him at the wedding, so it would be unforgettable. Now it seemed everything was Natalie's plan. Natalie's purpose was to make him marry Lydia, and she would withdraw completely. "How do you know these things?" Ethan asked. Lydia laughed. "Isn't this very simple? Just use your brain and think about it. It's impossible for Natalie and me to conspire, and I don't have the ability to manipulate things at the wedding. But someone came to find me on the wedding day, telling me to wear a wedding dress to get married. I know the person in your heart is Natalie. You couldn't possibly marry me. So the only person who could tamper with the wedding is Natalie. Later, I casually asked the wedding planning company and the ring designer, and they said everything was arranged according to Natalie's instructions. You say you love Natalie, you think you understand everything, but looking at it now, you still don't understand Natalie enough. When a woman doesn't love, she is truly ruthless." Hearing this, Ethan's face became very unsightly. He raised his hand, and the two dragged Lydia down directly. This time, Lydia was very tactful, without any struggle or noise, as if she accepted her fate calmly. The child in Lydia's belly was aborted after all, and the person, just as Ethan said, was thrown onto the street. Afterwards, he also found someone to investigate what Lydia said. Whether it was the wedding planning company, the ring designer, or the bridal shop, the replies were all the same. They said everything was done according to Natalie's wishes, especially the wedding ring designer. He told Ethan that when Natalie found him, she said she wanted to modify the engraving inside the ring. She also said LL was the name of the person he truly loved. Hearing this sentence, Ethan's tears instantly fell. He didn't love Lydia. The person he loved was always Natalie. After leaving, he returned to the home where he and Natalie had lived. According to his memory of the home, he found people to buy back all the things. In the following days, he lay at home getting drunk, muddled every day. Unknown how long passed, Arthur and Alina came to the door. Looking at Ethan's appearance, the two felt very uncomfortable in their hearts. "Ethan, don't be like this, okay?" Mrs. Lancaster squatted beside Ethan, crying and begging him. "Get up and look at us. Natty has gone now. We also sent people to look, but we haven't found her yet. And your Uncle Nash still doesn't know the news that Natty is missing. They entrusted Natty to us, and we didn't take good care of Natty. You can't fall down anymore. We have to find Natty before your Uncle Nash finds out she's missing. Your Uncle Nash helped our family in the early years. We can't let Natty and your Uncle Nash down." Whether Mrs. Lancaster appealed to emotion or reason, Ethan had no reaction at all. Arthur couldn't bear to let Ethan go on like this. He ordered coldly, "Ethan, if you're still a man, stand up. You did wrong in the past. What you need to do now is to find Natalie. Even if you can't find her, you have to look. Even if your Uncle Nash finds out later, you should go to apologize instead of lying at home like this, doing nothing but drinking to numb yourself. I'll give you some time." Come back after adjusting your state." After speaking, Arthur pulled Mrs. Lancaster away. Ethan turned his eyes slightly, looking at the two backs disappearing at the door. At this moment, he felt unprecedented loneliness. What he didn't know was that the Lancaster family's affairs were now known to everyone. Natalie had a good reputation in the circle. Many people didn't expect Ethan to betray Natalie, nor did they expect Natalie to pull such a move, changing the person at the wedding, then disappearing completely. While everyone cursed Ethan behind his back, they also regretted this relationship. After all, everyone had witnessed how good the relationship between the two used to be. Ethan lay at home, calling Natalie's phone incessantly every day. Even though that phone was placed right next to him now, but he still expected someone to answer his call, and the voice he was most familiar with and missed most would come from the phone. Just like before, the person on the other end of the phone would smile and ask, "Hey, what are you doing? Are you done busy? When are you coming back? What shall we eat? Do you miss me? I miss you." These most familiar and ordinary greetings had now become a luxury, a fantasy within sight but beyond reach. Unknowingly, Ethan fell asleep. In his sleep, he dreamed of Natalie. It was the 18-year-old Natalie. In the dream, they were teenagers who had just graduated from high school. Everyone let themselves go after the college entrance examination, including Ethan. He confessed to Natalie at the party. He prepared a lot for that confession and asked many people for help. Under everyone's witness, he said to Natalie, "Natty, I like you, let's be together." He remembered very clearly that Natalie was stunned at first, then her face was covered with blush, and she nodded shyly and agreed. But now in the dream, Natalie not only didn't agree to him but also stepped back a few steps in disgust, looking disdainful and saying, "I don't like you. Let's not meet again in the future." After speaking, Natalie turned and left. That look, that tone, that movement, full of disgust for him and desire to escape. He wanted to chase, but found he couldn't catch up no matter what. Clearly, Natalie was walking slowly, and he was running with all his might. But he just couldn't catch up, even feeling that Natalie was getting farther and farther away from him. The environment in the dream turned into a very long road with no end in sight, planted with big trees on both sides. But because of Natalie's departure, the originally lush trees gradually turned withered and yellow. The leaves on the trees slowly changed from green to yellow, then slowly fell to the ground, finally leaving only bare trunks. He used all his strength, but still watched Natalie's figure slowly walk away from his sight, become blurry, become small, and finally disappear completely. "Natty," suddenly, he sat up from the bed in shock, only to realize he had just had a dream. A very real dream, yet completely opposite to the reality he had experienced. Ethan checked the time. It was only 4 in the morning. He hugged his knees, curled himself into a ball, leaned into the corner of the bed, and gently called Natalie's name. Again and again, over and over, the people Ethan sent out to various countries and cities returned. They searched for a long time, searched many places, but didn't find Natalie's figure. This day, he decided to go out, because today was the 7th anniversary of his and Natalie's relationship. Ethan stood at the door, momentarily unsure where to go. He felt as if there was no place for him in this world. He looked at the pedestrians coming and going. Some were laughing, some were making noise, some were holding phones making calls, some were rushing or hailing taxis. Everyone was busy with their own affairs. No one spared him a second glance. No one noticed his existence. Ethan went to the mall and ordered a small cake. He bought himself a new set of clothes and got his hair styled again. At first glance, the current Ethan seemed to have returned to that lofty, high-spirited time. But if you looked at his eyes, they were full of sadness and confusion. In the evening, he carried the cake home. At the moment he stood at the door, that familiar feeling of loneliness and lack of care surged up again. Ethan blinked, trying hard to hold back his tears. Today was the 7th anniversary of their love. He couldn't cry. He slowly pushed open the door, expecting someone to run towards him, throw herself into his arms, and say with a smile, "You're back." But now the house was pitch black. The open door was like a giant beast of darkness opening its big mouth, ready to swallow him. Ethan lifted his foot and walked in slowly. The moment he closed the door, tears fell instantly. He thought he could hold it back, but once back home, The sourness and discomfort in his heart were like a flood with released gates, completely beyond his control. This home was the place he once lived with Natalie, the place he was most accustomed to existing. But since Natalie left, everything here had changed. It became cold, strange, without any warmth. No one would leave a light on waiting for him anymore. No one would linger in this home worrying about him anymore. He turned on the light, walked to the dining table, and put down the cake in his hand. Then he went into the kitchen and cooked a few dishes Natalie liked to eat. He prepared everything, then sat at the table and began to wait. He didn't know how long he waited, until the dishes were cold, until the cream on the cake melted. Just then, his phone vibrated. He quickly picked it up to look. It was the reminder he had noted before, reminding him what day it was today. But now, no one was with him to spend this anniversary that was important to him. Tears fell out again. Ethan looked at the dishes and cake on the table. He wondered, back when he was working outside or messing around with Lydia behind Natalie's back, did Natalie sit alone at the table waiting slowly like he was now? Thinking of what he did before, Ethan regretted it endlessly. He raised his hand and slapped himself several times again, saying sorry over and over. In the empty room, there were only the slapping sounds and the man's low sobbing. He slowly ate the cold dishes alone, ate that greasy cake, and drank a lot of wine. Clearly stuffed to death, he still ate everything on the table mouthful by mouthful. Eating until the end, he wanted to vomit but held it back. Enduring nausea and regurgitation, he prepared to go back to the room, but before walking a few steps, he couldn't help vomiting. It turned out being nauseous was so uncomfortable, repressive, and suffocating. He remembered the time Natalie pushed him away and rushed to the bathroom to vomit wildly. Was Natalie back then just like him now, enduring nausea to talk to him, meet him, sleep? He lay on the floor, whimpering constantly in his mouth. "Natty, Natty, where are you? Natty, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Come back and look at me, okay?" He shouted for a long time, but there was no answer in the room. In a trance, he remembered that Natalie had left. Natalie didn't want him anymore. Ethan sobered up a lot. He slowly propped up his body and sat up. He looked around the house, looking at the empty house, and his heart felt empty too. Ethan lay in bed, staring blankly at the ceiling, recalling why he cheated in the first place. He thought for a long time, thinking of when discussing cooperation outside before, there were women brought by partners at every dinner table. Then, after drinking too much, they started to get handsy with the women around them. Those women looked shyly resistant, yet enjoyed the other party's caresses. Ethan saw all those appearances. He also knew these people all had families, wives, and children. He really wanted to ask, "Aren't you afraid your wives will be sad doing this?" But he didn't ask. He felt it was other people's business. Unknown which time it was, he drank too much alcohol after a certain cooperation. Although his body swayed a little, his brain was still somewhat clear. Among the people who went with him that time was Lydia. That night, he didn't go home but let Lydia send him to the hotel. After arriving at the hotel, he was helped onto the bed by Lydia to lie down. When Lydia prepared to turn and leave, he grabbed the other party and violently pulled her into his arms. He still remembered Lydia crying out in surprise, then lying softly on his body. Lydia's chest pressed against his chest. That softness made him relaxed and happy. He asked Lydia, "Were you scared in the private room today?" Lydia first nodded timidly, then shook her head saying she wasn't scared. He pressed for the meaning. Lydia explained, "I'm not scared because Mr. Lancaster is by my side. You can definitely protect me." "Then, aren't you afraid I'm the same as those men?" Ethan asked. Lydia was silent for a few seconds and said, "No, Mr. Lancaster isn't that kind of person. I know very clearly." Hearing this, he laughed. He smiled and said, "You're wrong. I wasn't that kind of person before, but now I am." After speaking, he kissed Lydia's red lips. After the kiss ended, he asked Lydia, "Do you still think I'm not that kind of person now?" Lydia lay on his chest without speaking. After a long while, he asked again, "You still have a chance. If you leave, I'll treat it as if nothing happened. You don't have to worry that I will target you in the company." Literally, nothing happened. Lydia looked up at him, then actively kissed him. This time, they kissed fiercely and urgently. Then, getting out of hand, the two quickly stripped each other and possessed each other. That night, he had memories. That pleasure never felt in bed before was what he coveted. so he kept Lydia by his side. As long as he needed, Lydia would actively open her legs and wait for him. Even many times, it was Lydia who actively invited him. Again and again, he became completely intoxicated and obsessed with this feeling. But at the same time, he knew clearly that doing this was wrong, sorry to Natalie. After pulling between brief rationality and indulgence, under Lydia's multiple active invitations, he chose to hide it. He felt that as long as he didn't let Natalie find out, it would be fine. After all, many men he knew were like this, having women outside, even more than one. They told him, "It's fine, just don't let the family find out. Men are all like this, especially us capable men with money and looks." Hearing it often, he believed it. But just in case, he still warned Lydia more than once not to appear in front of Natalie. If she dared to leak a word in front of Natalie, he would kill her. He told Lydia, "I will only love Natty in this life, but I will give you my body and satisfy all your requirements as long as you are obedient. Natty is my life. Don't think about touching her, understand?" Every time he said this, Lydia nodded heavily, saying she knew, so he slowly relaxed his vigilance and fell completely. But he didn't expect Natalie not only discovered their affairs, but discovered them long ago. She could even pretend nothing happened, dealing with him for so long, and finally leaving quietly. Thinking about it now, compared to that momentary pleasure, Natalie was obviously more important. If he knew the price of brief pleasure in bed with another woman was losing Natalie, he would absolutely not touch any woman. But now it was all too late. He raised his hand to cover his eyes, tears sliding silently from his eye sockets. He never knew a man could shed so many tears. He took out his phone and spoke to Natalie in the phone photo. "Natty, if I hadn't been curious about those people from the beginning, if I hadn't gone to bed with Lydia, hadn't done anything to let you down, would you not have left? Would we still be as loving as before? Natty, I was wrong, I really know I was wrong. Natty, come back, okay? Don't be so cruel, okay? I really can't take it anymore. Every day without you feels like torment, even breathing feels painful." As he spoke, he gently kissed the woman in the screen photo. He thought in his heart, "Natty, come back, okay? Don't hate me, okay?" At this moment, Natalie was in the US with her family and her new husband. It had been more than 2 months since she came back, and she didn't feel any discomfort. Her new husband was named Julian York, also Chinese. Unlike the Nash family, Julian came to the US alone at 18 to study and strive. Through his struggles over these years, plus the trend of the times and the help of kind people, he achieved his current success. Julian's family conditions were good since childhood, but unfortunately, his mother passed away when he was 7. The day after his mother passed away, his father brought the mistress and illegitimate child home openly. He lived hard in the York family for more than 10 years. Until graduating from high school, he was kicked out of the house by his biological father and stepmother and sent abroad. Now, although he couldn't compare to the Nash family, he was the respected President York. Moreover, his current age was about the same as Natalie's. The first time Natalie and Julian met was at their wedding. Before agreeing to marry Julian, she naturally investigated everything about Julian long ago. Only after confirming Julian was someone worth and trusting did she agree to marry him. Of course, she admitted there was an element of gambling. But what is absolute? Even Ethan could betray her. After marriage, she asked Julian why he married her. Julian answered, "No reason, just wanted to marry you." This was said ambiguously, but it confused Natalie. Before getting the marriage certificate, Julian transferred half of the assets and shares under his name to her name. He also merged his company into the Nash family's subsidiary. The Nash family's current company was larger in scale than Julian's company, but wanting to take over Julian's company was still very difficult. It just surprised the Nash family that Julian would actively propose merging his company into the Nash family. Although merging wasn't as good as completely swallowing, at least he was willing to actively give the Nash family half, which was very generous. Natalie didn't know what Julian's purpose was. In her impression, she had never met Julian. Nor did she think her appearance was enough to make Julian fall in love with her at first sight. But facing her questioning, Julian never explained. However, in these 2 months, she truly saw and felt Julian's kindness to her. After getting along for these 2 months, she could feel that Julian was considered a good person. And Mr. and Mrs. Nash were also very satisfied with Julian. That night, Natalie came out of the bathroom after showering. She saw Julian sitting on the bed reading a book. She dried her hair, climbed onto the bed, and lay next to him, facing away. As soon as she lay down, the room light turned off. Natalie was confused. "Weren't you reading?" "Not reading anymore," Julian replied. "I saw you were sleepy, so I turned off the light." Until now, the two always remained in this state of respecting each other very much. Natalie wanted to say she wasn't sleepy, but she held back the words on the tip of her tongue. The room fell into silence. After a long while, she heard the voice of the person behind her. "Haven't you let go yet?" Natalie didn't know what this meant. Let go of what? What? "Since you came back, you've been listless. It's been like this for 2 months. Are you worried because there are still people or things in China not handled well?" Hearing this, Natalie unconsciously thought of Ethan. But it had been so long, there was no movement from the Lancaster family, Ethan didn't come looking, and she didn't deliberately check the domestic situation. So she didn't know how Ethan handled it now. "No," Natalie replied. "The things in China are all handled. I'm just in poor health, so my whole state looks bad." She finished speaking, and the room fell into silence again. The next second, rustling sounds came from behind. Immediately after, a thick arm wrapped around her waist and her back pressed against a hard, warm chest. "Really? Have you really let go of everything?" Getting the answer, Julian chuckled lightly. He dropped a kiss on Natalie's nape. "That's good, as long as you really let go, I'm happy." Natalie vaguely sensed something. She turned over to face Julian. In the dark, the two stared straight at each other with open eyes. "What do you know?" Natalie asked. Julian didn't hide anything. "I know everything." Natalie was startled in her heart, then asked, "Do you mind?" "I don't mind, I'm very happy." "Why?" Julian thought for a few seconds, suddenly leaned in violently and kissed Natalie's lips. "Are you satisfied with this answer?" Natalie was stunned for a moment, then her cheeks exploded with red. Fortunately, the light was off now, and no one noticed her embarrassment. "You? What do you mean?" Julian chuckled. "You are my wife. What's wrong with me kissing you once?" Natalie took a deep breath and asked, "Don't you find me boring?" "No, why would you say that?" After speaking, Julian seemed to react. "Did he say that about you?" Both knew who he referred to, and both tacitly didn't mention this person's name. Natalie thought and replied, "No, I feel I'm a bit boring. And we've been married for more than 2 months, almost 3 months. We haven't made any progress. Aren't you angry?" "Not angry. I'm waiting for you, waiting for when you are willing to let me approach actively." Hearing this, guilt rose in Natalie's heart. Thinking about it, she gritted her teeth, actively drilled into Julian's arms, and kissed the man's lips. Julian was stunned for a moment. "Have you thought it through?" Getting the answer, Julian immediately pulled her into his arms and kissed her lips fiercely. After a bout of tossing and turning, it was already the latter half of the night. Natalie didn't expect Julian, looking refined and gentle, to be so fierce in this regard. Afterwards, she was carried by Julian to the bathroom to wash up. Then he carried her back to bed, tucked her in, before going to clean himself. When Julian came back, Natalie was blinking her big eyes looking at him. Julian chuckled lightly. "Why are you looking at me like this? Did I make you uncomfortable?" Natalie shook her head. "No, come up, I have something to ask you." Julian nodded, then climbed into bed, turned off the light, and pulled her back into his arms. "Okay, ask, I'm listening." "Why are you so good to me? Logically speaking, we are just a marriage alliance. And from your attitude towards me, it feels like you are very familiar with me. Did we know each other before?" Hearing this, the arm holding her tightened again. Julian sighed softly. "Do you really not remember me at all?" Hearing this, Natalie confirmed Julian had seen her before and knew her. After a few seconds of silence, Julian spoke slowly. "We were in the same school in high school. We were even classmates. I was that unfavored son of the York family, the one often bullied. Do you have an impression?" Natalie carefully rummaged through past memories in her mind. Only after a long while did she find Julian's existence in the depths of her memory. "I remember now. You were that very low-key top student in the class, right?" You could say that," Julian replied. "At that time, due to family reasons, I was very low-key at school. I couldn't cause trouble, so I was always alone. Later, after graduating from high school, I was forcibly sent abroad by my dad and never went back." Natalie said very apologetically, "I'm sorry, I didn't remember you." Julian chuckled lightly. "It's okay. At that time, you were with him all day. hardly looking at others. Only a few people could talk to you. I think you might not even remember how many students were in our class then. Wait, what he said was true. During the 3 years of high school, because of her past experiences, Natalie was very cautious in dealing with people and rarely spoke to strangers, even classmates. And at that time, Ethan followed her and wouldn't let her talk to strangers, fearing she would be frightened or hurt. Then, when you saw me later, why didn't you tell me directly? Natalie asked. Julian answered, I didn't want to use connections. I wanted you to accept me actively and willingly. You like me? Natalie boldly voiced her guess. Julian answered very seriously, yes. Did you only realize this point after I said so much? Natalie didn't expect the direction of things to have such a result. She opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. Seeing Natalie silent, Julian was a bit nervous. What's wrong, scared you? Natalie shook her head. No, just a bit unexpected. Didn't expect you would like me. Julian kissed Natalie's forehead gently. I like you. I liked you a long, long time ago. Maybe you don't remember. After a PE class in the first year of high school, I was blocked by a group of people in a corner of the playground. They wanted to take the chance to teach me a lesson because I didn't pass them answers in a previous exam. It was you who suddenly appeared and asked if they had seen Ethan. As soon as those people saw it was you, they ran away in fear. Although I know it was purely unintentional on your part, and you didn't even come for me, you were just passing by and asked casually, it saved me from suffering pain once. Natalie recalled that in high school, although she ignored others respected her very much. Not only because Ethan was there, but also because everyone knew she was the daughter of the Nash family. Because she had been bullied before, after Mr. and Mrs. Nash rushed back, they dealt with all those who bullied her. Light punishments involved apologies and transferring schools. Heavy punishments involved family bankruptcy and dropping out. Since then, Seaview City knew she was not to be messed with, having both the Lancaster and Nash families backing her. Perhaps because of this, just by showing her face and asking a question, she scared those people away. Listening to Julian's explanation, Natalie couldn't help chuckling. What a cliché story. So you fell in love with me since then? Julian gave a faint hem. Yes, since then I liked you. Initially, I was full of gratitude towards you, then slowly put more attention on you, and then unknowingly liked you. Once started, this liking lasted for 3 years. Later, after graduating from high school, I saw him confess to you and you agreed. Seeing you with the person you liked, I was both happy and sad. Happy that you could be with someone you liked, sad that person wasn't me. It was precisely because of this that I had no attachments left. When my dad wanted to send me abroad, I didn't resist at all and left directly. I thought you would be together forever, but it doesn't matter, I'm here. Listening to Julian's calm tone, Natalie's eyes unconsciously became moist. So was the marriage alliance initiated by you? Julian answered. Yes. I worked hard for so long just to make myself powerful and stand higher, so it would be convenient to protect you. If I hadn't come back, what would you have done? Julian answered without thinking, then continue waiting. I've waited for so many years, I'm not afraid to wait longer. And I'm very clean, I haven't touched anyone else. You are my first. Really hearing this, Natalie's face turned red again. But thinking that she had been with Ethan, she asked again, then do you mind me? I said before, I don't mind, I'm very happy. As long as it's you, it's enough. After finishing, Julian added, I love you, love everything about you, love the past, present, and future. I know you don't believe in promises, so I will use time to prove my determination. My mother suffered betrayal. I won't follow the path of my father and Ethan. Natalie didn't speak, keeping silent was better for now. Julian didn't mind Natalie's attitude. He kissed the top of Natalie's head again, then coaxed her to sleep. Ethan searched for Natalie for half a year with no results. Just when he was about to give up, he saw Natalie again. At the funeral of the York family head, Natalie and Julian stood together. It turned out that not long ago, Julian's father, that old thing, passed away unexpectedly. Julian received the news to return to the country for the funeral and asked Natalie if she wanted to go back together. Natalie thought about it and agreed. Anyway, it had been so long. Presumably, Ethan and Lydia didn't care anymore. She was married to Julian now, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Of course, Mr. and Mrs. Nash also returned. Firstly, to attend Julian's father's funeral, and secondly, planning to transfer all domestic assets abroad to settle down permanently and never return. Therefore, there was the scene of Ethan seeing Natalie at the funeral. He rushed up regardless of everything, but was stopped by bodyguards. Julian looked back at the person blocked by bodyguards, then turned to look at Natalie. Finding Natalie's expression normal, he breathed a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that as soon as Natalie saw Ethan, she would fall for him again. Meeting Julian's gaze, Natalie instantly understood the thoughts in his heart. She squeezed Julian's hand and whispered, "Just kick him out directly. Just finish the funeral. I can't let you lose face." Julian smiled slightly, raised his hand to touch Natalie's head, thinking his wife was indeed thoughtful. Not far away, Ethan saw the actions of the two clearly. He didn't believe Natalie would be with someone else so quickly. He didn't believe it. Julian let go of Natalie's hand and walked towards Ethan. He smiled and said, "Long time no see." "Julian York, what did you do to Natty? Why is she in your hands?" Julian frowned slightly. "Your words are really ugly. She is my wife. If she isn't with me, could she be with you? But thank you anyway. If you hadn't done wrong and committed an unforgivable sin, Natty really might not have been willing to leave, and I wouldn't have had the chance to be with Natty." "Mr. Lancaster, thank you." After speaking, he raised his hand, and several bodyguards came up, directly covered Ethan's mouth, dragged him away, and kicked him out. After the funeral, when Julian held Natalie's hand preparing to leave, Ethan popped up from somewhere again. He blocked the path of the two, staring straight at Natalie with red eyes. "Natty, you're finally back. I missed you so much." Just as Julian wanted to say something, a person walked up next to him, leaned into his ear, and said a few words. His face changed instantly. "What? Are you sure?" That person nodded heavily. "Sure. Chairman York's death is a bit strange. The police are also verifying it now. If the evidence is confirmed, then the York family is yours." "I don't care about the York family. I just find it laughable. If it's true, I will burn this good news to that old thing immediately." Thinking of this, Julian glanced at Natalie and said, "I'll send you back first. I have something here, so I might not be able to go back immediately this time." Natalie looked at Julian and shook her head slightly. "Give me some time. I'll make things clear with him so he won't disturb again in the future." Julian looked at Ethan and nodded helplessly. "Okay, I'll leave the bodyguard and driver to you. They will send you back afterwards." After Julian left, Natalie turned and walked towards a quiet corner on the side. Ethan followed closely behind step by step. "Speak, what do you want with me?" Natalie's tone was very calm, without any emotional fluctuation. "Natty, I'm sorry. The past was all my fault. I really know I was wrong. Give me another chance, okay? I want to make it up to you." Hearing this, Natalie wanted to laugh. "Make it up. How to make it up? We get back together. I will treat you doubly well. As long as you need, I can appear immediately, always put you first, and absolutely never touch any woman other than you. We can hold the wedding again, then build our own family, give birth to our own child. Our family of 3 will live happily, okay?" Natalie frowned slightly, looking at the man in front of her with an expression like looking at a fool. "Are you talking nonsense? I've heard these words from you before, more than once. Your compensation has no meaning, and I don't need your compensation." Pausing, Natalie added, "Forgot to tell you I'm already married. I can't marry anyone else. Bigamy is illegal, you know." "Married?" Ethan's eyes widened instantly, face full of disbelief. "Impossible, how could you get married? Who did you marry?" "Julian York." "Didn't you see it just now?" Natalie said, shaking the ring on her hand. "Our wedding was on the same day. Did you forget? Same-day wedding?" Ethan realized instantly. "You married him immediately after going abroad? That's impossible." "Why impossible? My wedding with him was prepared long ago. I just needed to arrive a day in advance. If you don't believe it, you can check." Ethan retreated a few steps in succession, looking stunned and horrified. "So you planned it long ago, letting Lydia replace you on the wedding day while you were abroad holding a wedding with Julian." Natalie smiled and nodded. "Yes, that's it." "Natty, you're joking, right? You're lying to me, right?" Ethan said, crying and laughing. "I don't believe it. How could you possibly get married? How could you possibly really leave me? Didn't you love me the most?" Natalie restrained the smile on her face, tone turning cold. "Ethan, I tell you clearly, I don't love you anymore. From the moment I learned you cheated, I didn't love you anymore. Why do you think I would always love you? If it were you, would you love someone who cheated on and betrayed you? Ethan's breath hitched. He wouldn't. Similarly, he knew Natalie wouldn't either. Natty, listen to my explanation. Before I was a bastard, I was cheap. I touched another woman to seek excitement, but in my heart, I really only love you. I never loved Lydia, really. Only love me but go to bed with another woman behind my back. Only love me but let another woman get pregnant. Only love me but join hands with your family to deceive me. I can't afford such love. With every sentence Natalie said, Ethan's face turned paler. Suddenly, Ethan knelt in front of Natalie. I'm sorry, Natty, really sorry. I beg you, give me another chance, okay? While speaking, he slapped himself wildly. Natalie quickly took 2 steps back. Looking at the crazy Ethan, she couldn't help roaring, Ethan, if you go crazy again, I'm leaving now. Hearing this, Ethan looked up blankly at the woman in front of him. Natty, I really know I was wrong, I really regret it. The child in Lydia's belly has been aborted by me, and she was sent away. She will never appear in front of us again. Can you really not give me another chance? Natalie shook her head. It's not that I won't give you a chance, but that you are not worthy of me giving you a chance. Ethan, having known each other for so many years, you should know what kind of person I am. If you think pestering like this will make me forgive you, then continue. I'm leaving first. After speaking, Natalie turned to leave. But just after walking a few steps, suddenly a person rushed out from behind a tree nearby. Looking closely, it was Lydia, holding a knife in her hand. Bitch, it's all because of you that I became like this. I'm going to kill you. Natalie froze on the spot, watching the person rushing at extreme speed. Lydia's ferocious and terrifying face reminded Natalie of that time she was bullied. Those people were just like this. Seeing Lydia about to rush over, at the final critical moment, Ethan, who was kneeling on the side, rushed over in one stride and blocked the knife for Natalie. Squelch, the sound of the knife plunging into flesh came clearly, instantly pulling back Natalie's thoughts. She looked at Ethan in front of her, blood spilling from the corner of his mouth, still having a smile on his face. Natty, it's good that you're okay. Lydia was controlled on the spot by the bodyguards who rushed over, and someone immediately called 911. Ethan was rushed to the hospital. After rescue, although his life was saved, his lung was punctured, and he could only live lingeringly in the future. Lydia was sent to the police station, prosecuted for intentional injury. Coupled with the Lancaster family's operation, she was sentenced to 13 years. Arthur and Alina cried their hearts out, but knew clearly that the Lancaster family relied on them to hold it up now. When they met again, Natalie didn't say much to them. Finally, it was Mrs. Lancaster who held her back and said sorry to her. She also said they didn't teach their son well, causing him to commit such a series of mistakes. Natalie pulled the corner of her mouth, wanting to say it's okay but couldn't say it. For the next month or so, Natalie occasionally went to the hospital to see Ethan. Even if fate had ended, Ethan had indeed been good to her once. Julian and the police joined hands to investigate the truth of Julian's father's death. Later, it was confirmed that his father's death was man-made, and the real culprit was Julian's stepmother. It turned out Julian's illegitimate brother wasn't his father's child at all. His father helped someone else raise a child for more than 20 years. One day, after a whole family physical examination, the blood types didn't match. Later, a paternity test confirmed the child wasn't his. But for the sake of raising him for more than 20 years, his father only gave the mother and son a sum of money and told them to leave. Unexpectedly, the mother and son wanted the entire York family. So the two conspired, directly forged a car accident, and killed his father. Unexpectedly, this was still discovered by someone and then investigated until now. Now the mother and son had been sent to prison, and the York family completely fell into Julian's hands. Julian spent this month investigating evidence and taking over company matters. He didn't want the company, so he sold the company to several other directors of the company and completely withdrew from the company. Mr. and Mrs. Nash also took advantage of this time to transfer all domestic industries abroad and didn't plan to come back in the future. On the day everyone finished everything and prepared to leave, Ethan came again. Ethan wore a hospital gown and chased them to the airport. Looking at Natalie, he asked, "Natty, do I really have no chance?" Natalie nodded heavily. Yes, you lost your chance long ago. Hearing this, a tear slid from Ethan's eye socket. He sniffled and nodded knowingly. Okay, I understand. Then will you come back in the future? Probably won't come back. Ethan opened his mouth and asked the last question with difficulty. Then can we still be friends in the future? Friends, these two words were hard to define the boundary of the relationship. Just as Natalie wanted to refuse, she heard Ethan explain. Just the kind of friend who can send a message to greet occasionally during New Year, holidays, or birthdays. I absolutely won't disturb you much. Okay, then let's be friends. After speaking, the female announcement sound rang in the broadcast. Natalie smiled at Ethan and turned to leave. Ethan shouted from behind, "Natty, goodbye. Wish you a happy wedding and a happy and healthy rest of your life." Julian held Natalie's hand, looked back, and smiled. "Thank you for your late blessing." "We will." Ethan watched the group leave until the plane streaked across overhead and completely disappeared from sight. Many years later, when Ethan cultivated the adopted child to be able to stand on his own, he went to pay respects to his parents. Arthur and Alina suffered a lot in the second half of their lives because of him. The two had already passed away 3 years ago. After this visit, he planned to go see Natalie. He said a lot to his parents, saying he failed his parents and failed Natalie in this life. He rambled on for a day, finally knocked his head 3 times towards his parents' tombstones, and cried, "Dad, Mom, your son is unfilial. In the next life, I will work like an ox or a horse to repay your parental grace." After speaking, he got up and left. Getting on the plane, crossing the ocean, after more than 10 hours, Ethan finally saw Natalie. The current Natalie had a happy family, healthy parents, and a pair of twins who had grown up. He didn't disturb rashly, but bought a house opposite Natalie's home and lived quietly alone. He thought just guarding Natalie like this, seeing her safe, happy, and joyful was enough. As for himself, let it be like this for this life.